Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I am Ray. And today we finally get this ridiculous show of a story on the road, yes.
That's Peyton.
Yes, with a little bit of lag, having completed the game once on another character, we meet Esther Bright, whose name roughly translates out to be Star Bright. And Star Bright has quite a story for us. Here, let me summarize. Once upon a time, there was an ancient good guy named Good, who was really good. And also once upon a time, there was a really bad guy who was evil, because f*** you. His name was Evil, or The Evil if you were being polite, but no one was ever polite to him because he was the evil. Naturally, Good and Evil got in a big fight, like they do. So, you may think that it was an interesting battle and you want to hear about what happened or how it impacted the universe. Fortunately, the Good was able to seal the evil away. So long story short, scan a dozen toilets 6 times, and we'll go from there. Oh, and also, important detail, there's another person named Shady Knight who is also looking for these artifacts because she was told this information and it turned her evil. But there's no logic behind that, so really hoping this doesn't happen again. And now we proceed to blow all that off and do whatever we want, yes. That's right, we got houses to build and spaceships to build and armor to upgrade, and none of this is relevant to our lives. Yeah, we gotta help this penguin test out his giant mech. This is just like in Skyrim, they're like, oh no, Alduin is coming to end the world, yes. And you say, oh no, that's very serious. Hang on while I adopt some children and become the master of the Mages College. I mean, it's not like there's a sense of urgency. They open up with the Earth being destroyed, but we'll never see another planet killed by tentacles again. The evil is asleep. Yes. Yeah, he's asleep. He's currently asleep. I don't know how he killed Earth in his sleep, but he did. Man, and you know what? On top of that shadowy night thing, her actual name is Umber Nox, which just translates out to shadowy night. And it's the weirdest thing, because even doing these quests, they try to create this sense of urgency, like, oh no, the cult's trying to collect the artifacts ahead of you. But at the end of the game, Umber Nox gets ahead of you anyway. Like, even in the wiki, they kind of have this snide sort of remark, which I really enjoy, because wikis are supposed to be so neutral. But they're just like, yeah, Umber Nox gets ahead of you, somehow.
It's that little somehow that makes it.
Yeah, I mean, like, being as objective as possible, we have to admit that we don't know how this works.
What do you suppose motivates the evil to be evil, honestly?
I don't know, the same thing that motivates Umber Nox to worship the evil?
Well, that could be a sympathy for the devil type of thing. Like, I've always thought that the devil got it pretty bad. He's supposed to be this perfect being, he's better than everything else that's ever created, but God gets hyper-focused on these smelly animals on Earth. So the devil gets jealous, and then he gets imprisoned in hellfire for eternity, which is a really long time. Like, I understand 1,000 years imprisonment maybe, but there's no time limit, he's just, forever.
Well, it would be one thing if the story implied that Umbra felt sympathy for the evil, but it stated that she thinks the evil for some reason will kill everything but humans, even though the evil explicitly begins its attack by destroying Earth, the center of all humans. I would have fun if the main motivation of the villain was some kind of crazy PETA thing. The ruin is an endangered animal, yes! You can't kill it, there's only one! Like, you'd be fighting some kind of environmental protection thing? Like, what if it needs to reproduce?
Then there would be 2 planet-destroying monsters. That's worse.
But who knows what we could learn from this thing? That is an excellent point, yes. Maybe killing the evil makes us the bad guy.
We learn it's really hard to live on an exploded planet. That's what the evil teaches us.
That is still, in its own right, a valuable lesson. Kids today take for granted how easy it is to live on a non-exploded planet.
Couldn't we set up like a slideshow? I don't know, we could probably teach that in a class.
I mean, do you really know what it's like to live on an exploded planet until you've suffered through it firsthand?
Do you really know what it's like to stick your hand inside a blender and turn it on, unless you live through it firsthand?
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page. Hashtag spare the evil. It's got so much to teach us about suffering and torment. Speaking of hashtags, take the children's phones away while you're at it, yes. When their planet is destroyed, we don't want thousands of voices tweeting out at once and then being silenced. We prefer just silence, yes. So much harder to sleep at night when you can hear the screams of the kids as they die.
I mean, you'd be reading the screams of the kids.
How would that work? Like, they get on their phones and then just write out, ag, hashtag dying, hashtag evil.
We keep bringing up Skyrim.
I mean, everyone has played Skyrim, so, it's an easy shorthand.
Well, I just wanted to point out that there is absolutely a diary where a man, I'm pretty sure, writes "arg" in his diary as he dies.
So see, there you go. It's a game. We're not above kids writing and then just cutting off and sending the tweet.
I guess it's not a whole lot worse writing than what Starbound's already presenting us. So, what do you suppose motivates the good to be good, then?
You know, that's a really good question. Like, it looks like it's just a man in a spacesuit, if you go by the statues.
Well, we all know that spacemen tend to be pretty friendly because it's a very selective career, and you don't want to choose a disagreeable guy.
I mean, what else would be friendly? Like, why is he not in the shape of a giant happy puppy? Or like a kitten?
Like, in a spacesuit? Because it's gotta be space-themed, you know, it's a space game.
Yeah, like a little kitten or a puppy in a spacesuit.
Okay, actually, you joke, but I think that would help the game. Because if the ultimate symbol of good was just like a puppy in a spacesuit, then you could play it all off as a joke, and you'd be like, yeah, all this horrible writing is at least slightly self-aware.
Well, from what I read, what would have really helped Starbound is if they just, like, I don't know, picked a direction and went with it, instead of deleting all their content and then coming up with this good versus evil thing at the last minute.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do this good versus evil thing, there's probably better ways to go about it.
It's really weird, actually. I've kind of gone back and I've tried to read old posts about the game to get a sense for what it was, because I never played it back then, I just keep hearing about it. And, people are really defensive of the game, and also really derisive of it.
The internet is like that about everything, though. One man's trash is another man's treasure, and I will kill you.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is that it makes things really difficult from a historian's perspective, trying to understand what the game used to be about based on arguments on the internet about what the game used to be about. Like, one guy will make a post, and he'll say, man, I'm so disappointed because I was expecting A, and then I got B. And then you get a rebuttal post, and they say, well, B was always what we had, nothing has changed, A didn't exist. So, you get this sense that there are a lot of broken promises, and there were things that were originally planned but then were cut, and they've kind of been papered over. And I just don't know, like, what was promised and never materialized, and then what was there but taken away for no reason.
Well, how do actual historians deal with that?
Well, I guess they...
You don't actually know, you're just gonna make up a
I'm
lie.
not gonna... Okay, yeah, it's not a lie, it's an educated guess. I think what they do is they just look for repeating information to show up, and they also check the reliability of the sources.
So what do you think you could reliably infer, then, based on just, like, Steam posts?
Well, of the things that I see most commonly are people complaining that randomly generated monsters were removed. The rebuttal is that randomly generated monsters were weird. I also see that there were promises that there were going to be traits for the individual races, but that never materialized, so it never actually existed. I also see a lot of posts complaining that survival used to be a lot more complicated, where weather conditions were way more important to your survival. And finally, this is one of the lesser complaints, and I don't know why specifically, but there used to be a more variety of weapons, or at least there were like tier 10 weapons and a couple of other rare things, but all that was scrapped in favor of a new system. I guess the new system was good enough that it didn't bother people that much, because, like I said, didn't see a lot of that.
Well, what did you see about how the game improved? Were there any posts like that?
Well, this is why I think that maybe the game was just degrading, because I could find posts really easily, people talking about what the game used to be, and then the argument wouldn't be that the game is getting better and they like the new mechanics. The arguments were often that fundamentally nothing was changed, or being easier was important because, being difficult sucked. It's very subjective, but obviously a lot of stuff was cut, and the replacements weren't very complex.
So the game got easier, it was easier to get into it, you had a better sense of what was going on.
Yeah, like originally I guess you could get lost in space forever. You could make a mistake and be stranded. But they cut all that, and they got rid of all the weather stuff, and basically you could say they dumbed it down, or you made it more user-friendly. It depends on how you want to put it. I think maybe the fairest thing that I can say, based on everything that I was able to read, is that there were people who played the game for different reasons. Like, Starbound is still great for building stuff and creating things. I like the mechanics there, but I think if you wanted to play the game for the survival aspect or something like that, you were probably really crushed when they threw all that out.
So you could say, originally maybe they wanted Don't Starve meets Terraria, but then they got it changed to, well, Terraria with no bosses, I guess.
Yeah, Space Terraria, no bosses. But you know what, though, in fairness, I really like Don't Starve, but I also find it kind of tedious, I tend to find that when I play that game, I get in a rut of survival. Like, I figure out a strategy that works, and then I just kind of, go in a circle until I get bored, fishing or whatever, to survive. That's called real life, right? Yes. Basic survival is real life. You have to do something to shake things up. Well, in a sandbox game, it's not very efficient to do things to shake things up, and there's no reward except for the fact that you did a thing that didn't do anything.
I always personally like to just have a goal in a game, some kind of plan to move towards.
And speaking of plans and things to move towards, we're gonna stop this video here. So thanks for joining us, everybody. If you like this, consider supporting us on Patreon. It is how we survive. Also, if you want to read a comic featuring us, there is one linked in the description. You guys have a great day.